Bravo, bravo to all of you. Really beautifully done, beautifully learned, everything well in tune, ensemble very good. So first of all, welcome to all of you. It's a privilege always to be here in this beautiful space and to work with these wonderful young people. So we tend to think of these pieces being sort of coming out full-blown, inspired, and there they are. And we know them as they are, complete, but composers really do struggle. It's not a kind of automatic, easy process. And one can see that particularly in this piece, and even in the trio that follows. This piece did not start out as a piano quintet. It started out as the idea for a concerto, and then he abandoned that, and then he wrote it for two pianos, and that remains, and it's done publicly often, but then he decided that it would be best done as a piano quintet, and it's very orchestral in the concept and the sound of it. It's a huge piece. This performance was really very carefully done. So what are the kinds of things that you might have struggled with, and what are you thinking about? And I mean, the pianist knew it by heart, obviously. And so congratulations on all that. You really know it well. So what did you work on? What did you struggle about with the piece?
Tempi.
Right. It's a piece that has many different kinds of music in it. It's not kind of one mood, one kind of character. It has many different characters. Heroic, lyrical, agitated, tranquil, and it's very hard to put all of those together. So in a sense, that's what I'd like to work on with you most. Also, I understand you have the second movement. Would that be helpful for you, for me to hear some of that? Or would you? Okay, I'll try to leave some time for that also. So, a very nice beginning. One has to balance. There's this kind of, there's this unison in which piano has right and left hand, two voices, left hand doubles the cello, the right hand is an octave higher than the violin, and there's always the question, both ensemble and balance, how to do that. So, and then it goes from a kind of really majestic and yet settled kind of opening, which states the main theme in a way of the piece, to a very agitated part. Now, so do you mean that to be in the same tempo as the beginning statement?
No, I think beginning should be a little bit more drawback, and when the agitated part should be a little bit more forward.
Okay, so he says that the beginning can be a little bit laid back, held back, and then the next part forward, a little bit more speed in it. Okay, so let's start. Why don't you play it, and let's see what we think. Good. So, nice cue at the beginning. That's very important. You are very well together. I thought the balance was good. I guess the idea is that you're all inside each other's sounds and that nobody sticks out or is over prominent. Good. All right, so then you have ritenuto, and then you have the forte. And agitato is okay. I think not bad. I'd love to hear, and then, sorry, right after that agitato, you have these repeated chords in the strings, yum, bum, bum, ba. So even though they're staccato, I'd love to hear more sustained on those. Yum, bum, beam, but rather dut, 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 dut. And then a little more breadth, a little more broadening at the end. Tom, bum, especially on those. Dum, bum, bum, be, and ta, ti, da. Then the same theme repeated, only this time in fortissimo. Okay, fortissimo. I still think fortissimo yet sung and sustained, not too aggressive with the sound. And it's true that you have accents, dee da da da, dee da da. I think they're too predominant, and that I don't think you play the gesture with enough kind of sustained from the beginning to the end. So I hear da 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 da, dee da da. I'd love to hear more tee da da da, tee da da da, tee. There's a kind of grandeur to it. The fortissimo, I think, refers more to the character than absolutely to the dynamic. You know, you always have to be careful about what notation means. It's in the context. It's not absolute. So fortissimo, yes, he doesn't write 3F very often. So it's a very full dynamic, of course, but I think this is, in this case, full and sustained. So I'd love to hear more of that. Can you give, after the fermata, tee da da da, tee da da da, tee da da da, whatever it is, and then da 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 dum. Can you breathe there?
Yes.
I feel that you come in too soon, a little too soon, and a little bit too aggressively, like da 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 dum. That they're all spoken, that they're all. I mean, it is an agitated place, but not da 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 da. It feels a little bit like that, like there's no way to breathe. I mean, the strings have yum ba, tum ba, and then accents dum ba, dum ba. So what I'm going to say to you, maybe throughout the movement, so I would like you to be able to breathe more, to take a little more time, to not be so fast. I think it's a little fast in general. All right, so after the first fermata, well, why don't you do the opening again and go on. Try to play the long notes, the staccato notes, with more bow, more breadth. Tum, bum, more singing. Don't have them end dot, 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 dot. I don't think that's the character of the piece. All right. Okay, great, great. Okay, so more in that direction, I think. These, just really sing them. Don't, don't get so excited with it. I mean, there's still a kind of breadth in them. Okay, technically fantastic. And even T-da-da-da, 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 that you sing all of those notes with a kind of, stress on the first note. And then you have, throughout this past passage that we just did, ta-dum, ti-dum, ti-dum, the upbeat, the stressed upbeat, ta-dum, ti-dum. It needs a little space or time. In other words, don't rush through it. Then you have this very hard place at ti-da-da-dee-dum. I found there was a little too much silence there. Let the entrance of the violin be your cutoff, rather than cutting off before.
Yes.
And then, feel free to come in when you want, so that he'll be there, and then sing that. So this is one of the places where probably it's going to slow up. It's okay. The idea that we're robots or that we can play exact tempo is really inimical to what music is about. Not that we should be just randomly free or do whatever we want, but that within a piece there's a range of tempi. There was once I went to there used to be a series of concerts quite long ago called Rug Concerts given by the New York Philharmonic, in which they were trying to attract an audience in a more casual setting. And so people would sit on the floor, which I can't do. Pierre Boulez was the conductor of the Philharmonic at the time, and he was doing contemporary and challenging music. And so he was doing a piece by Milton Babbitt that had an electronic part to it, and along with the group. And he was wearing a click track. And afterwards, they invited questions from the audience. And so one of the people said, Mr. Boulez, we understand that you have a superior sense of rhythm. If you have such a superior sense of rhythm, why do you need a click track? So, a click track gives you like a metronomic beat. So it's in his ear, it's click track, so he can keep up with the electronics, and then, So he said, well, I do have a very good sense of rhythm, but if you would put any two excellent musicians with excellent sense of rhythm in two separate rooms, and you start a metronome going, you start a beat, I don't remember the exact number, but I think he said within 6 seconds, they would not be together. So the human perception of what's even and an exact beat is very imperfect, even in the finest musicians. So there's always latitude in a piece to be in the character of the music. Now, I hesitate to say that because I don't think tempo should be all over the place, but within a piece that there's a range of tempo. So here's one of the places where it probably would be artificial and uncomfortable to be in exactly the same tempo. So that's fine. I would say the dynamic is piano espressivo. You all tend to play quite loud all the time. So this is piano espressivo. You can let it be. There's nobody really competing with you. And what I would also say in this part, it's dolce espressivo. It's very interesting terms, dolce and espressivo. We tend to think of them as the same. I don't think they're the same. Sometimes you see Brahms say dolce but espressivo, as if they're contrary. And in a way they are. I think, in his sense, and other composers, that dolce is more gentle and espressivo is more outgoing. So if he says dolce but espressivo, or dolce espressivo, it's gentle but not reserved, not inner. So it's ambiguous in a wonderful way. So in this part, where we just reached, piano and viola have a dialogue. I'd love to hear that a little bit more. I think you could play a little more there. So ta-dee-da, 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 ta-dee-da against ti-dum, pa-dee, and you don't have to force there. So enjoy it. How about, what's a good place to start? How about there? Which, you don't have measure numbers? Before A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 before A. You have an A? Okay, good. Very good. Okay, good, good. So there was still a space here. Don't let go of the pedal until she's about to play. Okay, so you have this, this very expressive part, and I think it is also gentle. So viola, as much as you can really have a dialogue. Don't think of it as too soloistic. Don't play out too much. Sing there. The whole thing is still in piano, even though you have ti-da-da-dee, comes back, da-dee-da-dee-dee, and it's still piano. Ta-dee, ta-ta-ta-tum, pa-pa-pa-bum, pa-pa-pa-bum, ti-ta-ta-tum. There's where the crescendo is. So you crescendo way too early. You know, and I think you give up something by losing the intimacy of a lot of the movement. So can we start just at A for now? That's better, great. Good. And back down. And now. Ready? Okay, good. Bravo, great. So underline this whole passage. You starting before that, right at A, there are triplets, da-dee-da, da-dee-da, pa-dee-da, pa-dee-da. Then you have yam, pa-pa-pa-pa-pa, again triplets, and ya-pa-pa-pum, pa-pa-pa-pum, pa-pa, etc. Now you have that, you'll da-da-da-dee-da-da-dee-da-da-da. I think you could be a little more, you know, underlie the whole section. It's in the rest, and for yourself, has that kind of hushed quality and kind of eager. But the left hand, so a little more of that, and the rhythmic quality of that. So let's just start at that forte double bar. Da-da-da-dee-da-da, ready. Okay, good. So again, a section with many different segments in it, different kinds of music. So when you have viola and cello, ti ta 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 dum, ti ta ta, what's your dynamic? Piano, sottovoce, espressivo. Again, kind of contradictory. And it's interesting and good that it's not, that there's some ambiguity in the instruction. Soft, sottovoce is really kind of in an undertone, and yet espressivo. So what do? Okay, it's good. It's good food for thought. So I think, again, not anything too outgoing. Ta ti ta 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 dum, ti pa 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 pi dum, and then you have that little swell, which is in well, okay, pianissimo for the piano and the violin, and you've decided to make an echo in the repeat of it. Okay, okay, that's fine. And then there's the next part of the sequence. Is it intensifying, or is it the same, or is it less?
I think it's more intensified.
Maybe more intensified. So I don't quite hear that in what you do. And then that figure again, that alert figure. Then there's a dialogue. So that is what I love to hear that you do more. Like at B, it's second, which leads to first. Can you have more listening that you lead into that rather than stop, she plays, and then the piano plays? I don't hear a kind of connection well enough. So, I mean, you're a very good chamber music player in that you play really with the group, basically, and that you are listening to being together. I wish you would listen a little more to the contour of the music. What's the dynamic? Where are you taking over? What's the sound that you should use when you're taking over? What are the rhythmic implications? That's something, a kind of sensitivity to what's going on in the music that would just enhance your very excellent playing already. Do you play a lot of chamber music?
Kind of.
Okay. Well, it's very difficult for pianists in chamber music. They're very, I mean, even if you could see them playing, there's very little visual contact. The pianist is over here, the group is there, they're interacting always, cueing. He was very much into his own part. Now, not that I think that the pianist has to always be turning around like Menachem Pressler and looking at his colleagues, but some peripheral sense that you're in contact. I don't feel you're quite in contact with your colleagues. It's just an aside. If you're going to play a lot of chamber music, which I think you will, and you do it excellently, to be more attuned, more aware of what's going on with the rest of the group. And also, it's a very strange combination, piano with the strings. It's such a different kind of sound and instrument, and intentionally so. So it's not like it must blend exactly, yet it has to be a part of what's going on. So it's both separate and yet it's a part. This piece is very much a kind of piano versus strings piece. Okay, but still there's a lot of ensemble that you should try to make the sounds that work with your colleagues. I mean, it's a very general thing to say, but okay, can you do from where the piano has alone, ti da 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 da, the double bar with the four sharps. Leads to, that's it. less if you're going to do less. Good. Which goes. Which goes. Okay, good, yeah. All right, so this whole kind of rather difficult issue of how you breathe, what you do between phrases, how you get from one to the other without either exaggerating the timing or not paying any attention at all. So I think, as is not uncommon, you tend to go with going ahead without paying much attention, in a way because you think you don't have permission to take time. And I understand that. The more you play, I think the more you'll feel, I need to take time to express these changes. Otherwise, the piece sort of goes like that. And the piece is not like that. I mean, it's very full of different shapes and different kind of music. So what I thought was very good, was after the sequence says right before B, that it did breathe. And that was a little bit because you really made a color change, you know, on ti-dum, ti-dum, pa-pa-da. So it's not ti-dum, ti-da-da-dum. It's not that. It's ti-dum, pa-pa. It's not that you take time. It's that you speak in a different tone of voice. It's a subtle thing, sorry to say. Okay, you can probably be more first violin, where was it? Okay, forget about it, I don't remember where it was. Okay, so where you just ended, you do da da dee da dee dum ba ba da dum. You know, again da 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 ya pa 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 dum dee da. So it shouldn't go right on. I think da da dee da dee dum dum pa dee da da. Say it in a different way. So right there, that pianissimo, two before. I don't know where. I don't have letters right there. Do you know where it is?
9 after B.
Okay, thank you. Your solo, yeah. Okay, do it again. Not bad. Play how you play it before. Play this, just by yourself. Now here's what, listen to this. Can you sound like that, Toddy? Okay, maybe you don't want to slide to the G sharp. Or maybe I don't want you to slide to the G sharp. So, I mean, listen, just play these two measures. And now you play. And something like that. You don't have to give a big accent on the next C sharp, but just tapering and then starting. All right, so right there where you just were, so here's two measures, and then you come in. So it's two before where you just started. Good. I'm running out of time for this movement. You know, you're never together on triyam. So why is that? Well, it's hard. But if you can all feel yum, ba, and particularly you, that there you have to be really conscious of where they want to come in. So you do yum without sort of like, you know, paying attention. You're not far from them. You're never far away from the ensemble, but you're often a little apart. That matters. Even on these 16ths, you're not exactly with your colleagues. You have to really listen carefully. So always yum, ta. It might be that you have to delay that. It might be. But you do have to know where they're going to come in. All right. Okay, we won't go through this, but yum, ba-dum, 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 sounded frivolous to me. It is a lighter place, but it's not, he doesn't all of a sudden put a smile on his face, I think. So it's more tum, ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. Okay, has a lift to it and a lightness, but not that. Dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. That's it. You know, it's a very small distinction. So to sing through it, even though you need to play that rhythm, that kind of dotted rhythm. And then ti-da-da, ti-da-da, ti-dam, pi-da-da, ti. Again, dialogue between all of you. This is where it's slightly dangerous that one can slow down. Ti-da-dam, ti-da-dam. And you wind up bum, bum. And you wind up really in a difficult place. Okay, and to say just quickly to the strings, your single notes, dum, bum. Okay, they're very awkward. They sound a little bit like frogs croaking in the pond. So can you have a little more bow on it, tum, a little more vibrato? Otherwise, they're sort of irrelevant, and they're just like, what is that doing? So, bum, tum, ti-da-dum, bum, bum. So there's a little depth in them. So should we try that? That's a kind of awkward place. How about before the second ending, 1, 2, 3, 4. So first of ti-da-dum. Yeah. Be careful that you don't slow up too much. That's better. And sing, boom, good. And color change, modulation, that's nice. And again, boom, boom. Okay, good, bravo, great. Do be careful after the second ending that you don't start in a much slower tempo. That's still ti-da-da-da-da-dee-dum, that it has a flow to it. And to say about the poco sostenuto toward the end of the movement, diminuendo and poco ritenuto and poco sostenuto. I think it's that's very easy to exaggerate and to play very much more slowly. So can you lead into that? Where is that?
Usually start here.
Fine. Usually you start there. Okay. So they've okay, good. So start there. Okay. Okay. Look. So get up for a second. Can you? I hear too much that you're playing them the same. And you're in dialogue with and all these syncopated slurs. diminuendo and poco retard. Da, 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 da. Why don't you think to slow down into the tempo and not to get slower than your retard? So, how about, okay, start where you're used to starting. Release a little bit. And retard. And just where you were. And it's pianissimo, dolce. Good. Nice. A little more cello. Low point. More cello. Now gradual. Da-dum, 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 That's good. Keep going to the end. And long bows. Good. Good. So I think a more gradual accelerando in that place as you get back to tempo one. How was that tempo for you in the sostenuto? Okay, I liked it. It had a flow to it, and it didn't seem like it was too fast to me. Even to shape these, T-da-da-da, T-da-da-da, to not play uniformly. Da-da-da-dee-da-da-da-da-da-da-dee-da-da-da-dum. I think the end can be more grand. T-da-da-da, 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 T, as broad as you want. T-da-da-da, T-da-da-da, pum. I think it can be more held at the end. And you got to release the last note at the same time. Okay, so it's like 3 minutes to 12, but we started a little late. Why don't you play just the opening of the second movement? And we'll stop then. Okay, good, since we have very limited time. So this is interesting, and Brahms is always interesting in these ambiguous ways. He says it's andante, comma, un poco adagio. So is it adagio or is it andante? No, it's andante, but don't let it be too fast. Okay, so I think you may err on the side of being too slow, of being adagio. I don't know, but more than the exact tempo, I'd love to hear it by the measure instead of da-da, da-da-dee. That's what I hear a little bit. Ta-dum, ta-da-dee-da, next. One beat to a measure, one pulse, not 4 pulses. And then strings have this wonderful figure, ta-dum, bum, bum, like a real lifted figure, light, not da-dum, bum, bum, da-da. You're doing that a little bit. So can touch faster, you can decide later, no, you don't like that, that's your business. But touch faster and more lifted and by the measure. That's more important, I think, than the exact tempo. So think the whole measure. Okay, good, better. Then it's marked for the piano espressivo, again, sotto voce, really ambiguous mark. Play expressively, but I really don't mean you to be outgoing. So, and the strings are marked pianissimo. So one, I thought that makes a difference. One other thing to the strings, you always drop the last note very much. Da-dum, bum, bum, da. So then you have to breathe again for each measure. Why don't you keep it more or less da-dum, bum, dum, da-dum, dum, and you do it every measure so that every measure kind of stops. So last time, and then I guess we'll have to stop. That's better. Same tempo, don't slow down. Good. By the measure. Good. Minor. Okay, good, bravo. So just one little story about this. It's a cute story. If you noticed or didn't notice, the second violin doesn't have anything to do for quite a long time. Yeah. So there was a famous, from one of my dear friends, who told the story of being second violinist in this piece in Marlborough with Rudolf Serkin playing piano. And as the beginning of the movement progressed, this poor fellow sitting over here kept getting very agitated looks from Mr. Serkin, looking sideways, more and more kind of distressed and angry. And finally, Mr. Serkin exploded, and what are you doing? And he said, but Mr. Serkin, I don't have anything to do. What do you mean you don't have anything to do? You should be as if you can't wait to play. You should be sitting there like that. So that's the story. Okay, thank you all very much. You're allowed to bow when they applaud. Okay, another piece that sounds as if it were just inspired and came out, but this is there are two versions of this piece. He wrote it very early, Opus 8, and very late in his life, he revised it. And this is the revised version that everybody always plays. One doesn't hear the earlier version. There are quite a lot of differences in the two versions. And so never finished really quite, fooling with the music, finding a better way to express what you want to express. So it's a very, I always am amazed at what a difficult, arduous process it is, having no gift in that area at all, that these beautiful sounds, combinations of sounds, gestures, and form come out so wonderfully. You hear about, there's a wonderful biography of Brahms that I really recommend. It's a very readable, it's like a novel. It's by Jan Swafford, who also wrote a biography of Beethoven. And he talks of Beethoven writing the Eroica Symphony and storming around out in the woods, singing, shrieking to himself, regardless of the weather, being totally unaware of what's going on with his little notebook and always scratching into the notebook ideas, scratching them out, changing them, modifying them. And it's a very, very arduous process. Maybe not for some people. It seems like Schubert just wrote things on a napkin and there it was. But generally it's a struggle to get out. And composers also lack confidence in what they've produced. Sometimes we think of them as very secure, egotistical people. There's also because I do want to speak about balance a little bit in this performance, which is very beautiful, really wonderful playing from all of you. So there was the story of Brahms. He was a very powerful, excellent pianist, and he stopped practicing a lot, as composers do. After a while, got, concentrate on his composition, conducting, whatever. And so a late cello sonata, the F major, he played the premiere of, and it's reputed that during the rehearsals, the cellist said, "Herr Brahms, you're playing so loud I can't even hear myself." And Brahms said, "You're fortunate." And then there's a report of that first performance of that F major sonata, and there's a beautiful new edition of Brahms of the cello sonatas out with a lot of commentary. And so Hugo Wolf, composer of the time, contemporary, and somebody in the Wagner camp, rather than the Brahms camp, went to the performance, and he said, of the cello sonata, he said, "Rarely have I heard such mediocre cello playing, but it matched the composition to a T." And then he said, "Brahms is one of the greatest frauds that ever lived." So go figure. There are all kinds. There's always this kind of, the music world is not necessarily a peaceful place. Okay, you play the piano beautifully, really beautifully, and you're quite a beautiful ensemble player too. So the thing is, in a trio combination, it's different from the quintet we heard. In a way, I would say you're never too loud. It's not ever the issue, or it's not always the issue of loud and soft, but it's an issue of equivalency. I mean, what their fullness is should be what your fullness is. It shouldn't sound like you're here and they play the same or the equivalent passage there. And you always made a beautiful sound. Really, it's terrific, terrific piano playing. But maybe you were a little bit in your own sound world, and it wasn't so well matched. Now I think the strings have a role in that too. I think you were a little bit understated, you know, and that it's important that you all try to live in the same sound world. So it was not always that the piano is too much, it's sometimes that the strings are not quite enough. I don't know whether you felt that at all. Could you give more sometimes without forcing?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful both for the piece and to each other. All right, so let's start. It's beautiful, and it's never in the soft parts that I would worry about you. The soft parts are beautifully listened to, like the beginning when the cello comes in, your eighth notes are great. They're both present, and they're not too much at all. So I worry about it in fuller places, when it's forte, fortissimo. And this whole first tune, and I don't want you to force, because I felt you were a little forcing now. I don't want you to have to force. So that's just something between all of you. So realize in this, so you start piano, and cello comes in piano, and then there's a crescendo. Crescendo leads to poco forte. So what's poco forte? What do you think poco forte is? I mean, I don't have an answer exactly. I also have thought about it, but what do you conceive that to be, poco forte? Any of you?
I think I consider it to be a little bit more inward forte, like a tiny bit withheld, but not necessarily in loudness, just in the feeling.
Yeah, I'd say like a little stronger, like from
stronger than
stronger than the piano that
okay.
Well, I'm not really entering. I don't think you would call it.
So it's not your business. Okay, so it's an interesting instruction that's used most frequently by Brahms of anybody. It's not really used so much before by Beethoven, by Schubert. It's a very Brahmsian kind of indication. And what I think it does mean is basically what you said, that it's not a forte, it's a restrained, somewhat louder than piano mark. So, okay, so you come to a poco forte, and even whether you like that definition or not doesn't matter, because after that, there's still crescendo, right? And then next mark is sempre più forte, so even louder, but he's never said forte yet. And so then there's another crescendo, and then there's forte, and then the whole statement is in forte, and then there's a crescendo, and then marcato, and then fortissimo. Now that takes about, 2 pages in the piano part. I don't know how many lines it takes for you guys. but it takes about 2 pages. I think you get too loud too soon. So that by the time you're here, you're quite loud already. I think it should be, you know, rich singing and not in any way inhibited piano, but not yet. And then crescendo, forte, still, you know that maybe 16 measures later you have fortissimo. And in between that forte and fortissimo, you have crescendo and marcato. So, and it seems to me like this is amazingly, in a way, one statement, one long statement, all the way till, well, it goes for a really long time almost until measure 76. Like it's one statement, okay, it has its ups and downs, it's not all going like that. It's going, you know, down, up, rising, rising. Okay, and then ta-dee-da-dum, pa-dee-da-dum is mezzo piano and piano for the strings. So to pace things well, like yum, pi-pa-pa, pa-pa-pa, pi-ta-ta-ti-ta-ta, pa-pa-pa. That's in piano, basically. Then big diminuendo to that end to 76. So can you play again? Just thinking about that a little bit. I really don't want you to be inhibited. It's a very lush and voluptuous and beautiful opening statement, really beautiful and exceptional, memorable. Opus 8, I mean, Brahms was one of these composers, despite the fact that he revised the piece later on, that even in his early music, he sounded very much like himself. You know, it got refined. He was able to use little modules of ideas and build from them later on. But the basic sound of Brahms is even in the very early works. So I don't want it to be inhibited. I want you to feel free, but yet be aware that you still have a way to go. And don't make your colleagues push their sound. Don't push your sound, yet give as much as you can comfortably give when you need to. Okay, sorry, my fault, that's my fault. I don't want, it's piano at the beginning. You played very beautifully before. You know, dynamics are very interesting. Piano doesn't necessarily, well, it's not an absolute mark of an absolute dynamic. There's a huge range. Piano can be piano accompanying, gesture, figuration, or it can be cantabile, espressivo, melodic piano. That's what this is. I don't want you to sound, and that's my fault, I don't want you to sound like you have to play like that. I want you to, you played it very beautifully before. It was not at all too loud. It was singing, and I think that's what it should be. So be careful. You have a good A, everybody? Okay, so just be a little careful. Beautiful. Keep going. Okay, good, good. Yeah. I should say, although it's not relevant to the playing, you have one of the best page turners around. She's turned for me a number of times, and she is fantastic. You know, what's fantastic about a page turner is when you don't even know they're there. So she's always right there where she should be. It's great. Okay. Nice proportion in the dynamics, I think. And the piano does have the predominant role there, but you played inside that sound very beautifully, both of you, and you didn't play too much. And the forte was a beautiful forte. Again, forte can be many things. It can be with a lot of force, or it can be just large and grand, and I think these are that. Here, I think, you don't match them. You're probably too much. A little bit. Yup. You don't need to go down into the instrument. You can just do that. Right. So release. Just think more of the attack. That's it. Right. Again, don't be inhibited, but don't press. Even more, a little more staccato. Yum pum pum. Yeah. Not so much, not so staccato on the last note. Okay, my foot, very good. Okay, otherwise it was great. How about right where you were, again, you have measure numbers, 55, right before 55. Wouldn't you like to breathe a little bit there? Yup, up, up, da, dee, da, dum. Da, dee, da, da. You know, not a significant amount of time, but catching your breath. So can we do the fortissimo with the upbeat? Good. Okay, beautiful. All right, beautiful, beautiful. And I very much empathize with you taking time there. Perhaps it's a little much, but it's good. Da 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 da. Ti-dum, ti-da-da-dum. So just not to exaggerate too much. Character of yapapa in the strings, it's a little light. I think yapapam, ti-ta-ta-pa-pa-pa-pi-pa-pa, it's a little yatata. So I would say speak every note there. And there's a kind of, real rhythmic element. Da, and in the place before the double bar, ti-ti-pa-pam, pi-pa, to speak the eighth notes. Not make it too ti-ya-dum. I think it's more rhythmic than that. And against that, you have ya-pa-pa-pa-pa-pa-pa-pa-pam, ti-ri-da-dum, pa-di. And don't think there that you need to lessen the dynamic too much. Just really sing that out. So can we start with a measure? Oh, good, we have measures 55. Just right on 55. Da da pa pa da pa 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 ya pa 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 da di da 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 good. Good. Beautiful. I have very little to say about all of that. Okay. Very good. The dialogue between all of you. I thought that retard was, appropriate. This is one of the most beautiful places, I think, for me, in the piece. This phrase, ta-dee-da. I think you could be more expressive here. Ta-da-da-da-da-da-da-dee. Particularly in the inner voices. Okay, how about without a retard? Beautiful, beautiful. And again, and then let it go on, yeah. So, good. So I think you're better off without slowing down these two phrases. And to really, so wonderfully expressive in the counterpoint there. Okay, and then very beautiful balance, all of that, and nice progression in of the crescendo. Great. To me, you rush that. You do. It's understandable. It's not. You make it into a real gesture, but I think you take it out of the context a little bit. It's always been yada da 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 ti da 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 da. Now you have 4 of them. Yada da 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 dam. I don't think you should rush it though. That's it. So there's this, subtle distinction between pushing and making the gesture, giving it direction. You gave it direction now without pushing it. That's what I mean. Okay. So you guys have second movement also? Is that what do you want to do?
We also have the 4th movement.
Oh, you have the 4th movement. Okay. That's a tough movement. Okay. Anything else that we should do in this movement? Yeah. A lot of the same material. Yeah, okay, the Tranquillo. So it's again wonderfully interesting the way Brahms uses words differently than other people. So Tranquillo means kind of in restful, peaceful, not agitated. So you can take that to mean that it's slower, or you can take it to mean that it's less restless, or that it's more peaceful. Most of the time, it seems to imply that it's slower. It seems to. But he's never said retard into it. And he says poco forte, but dolce. So again, these lovely ambiguities that he has that really nobody else has in the same way. And then Tranquillo. So my sense is that you're a little slow. And then, to compound that, later on, there's a poco rit, right? And then later on in that Tranquillo section, my God, you make a huge retard into the retard. So I wouldn't do that. I think you give it away. And poco rit, even when he does have the rit. And then he says, very also ambiguously in tempo, but sustained, always sustained. Sostenuto also has that. What does it mean? Does it mean slower? Well, it's hard to know. Probably means a little bit slower, if anything. It means not to go ahead, hold it, probably a little slower. And then he says again, in tempo. So usually composers write a tempo, which means the tempo of the beginning. He writes in tempo. Well, in which tempo? In the Tranquillo tempo? In the Sostenuto tempo? It's hard to know exact. Should you go back to the first tempo? Anyway, I don't know that you handled all of that so comfortably. How about 3 before the Tranquillo? Okay, good, bravo, okay. So is that comfortable enough? I mean, it clearly means to be a little slower, you know, whatever I said. So tranquillo, but it, you know, all right. So if you can feel that it's not restless, that's good. Perhaps you're a little loud here. The piano has a lot of active stuff to do, and it's hard to keep it down. Perhaps you're a little loud. And then you have this falling figure. Tam, ti da 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 da, ti da da da, on and on, a sequence of falling figures. It feels like it might want to slow down. It's okay. But when you get to here, I don't think you should slow down more. It's the end of that. So how about from Dolce in the middle of that passage? Oh, it's 264. Don't retard. Here's where the retard is written. Good. And good. Okay, so you'll think about that, you know. Good, I still think at the end you probably make too much retard. Then that poco rit, you maybe don't have to do almost anything because the cello then follows. Ti-da-da-dum, pa-di-da, then the cello does, ti-da-dum, pa-di-da. So let her do it mostly. Okay, in tempo, I'd say it was good what you did. You came back to a tempo, but sempre sostenuto. So a tempo, but you know, don't go too far ahead. It's wonderful. The marks are wonderful, the notation, just wonderful. Okay, then sostenuto you have, and then in tempo I thought was good. Maybe you might be a bit loud there. Da-dim, da-dum, ti-da-da-da-da, pi-da-da-da-da. So if you can, you know, be aware of what's happening there. And always the upbeats are so beautiful and important. Ti-da-da-da, and sung upbeats. Ta-dim, ta-dim, da-dum, you know, so to sing always the upbeat. Beautiful at the end. I think the notes are too short, the last two notes. Or you know, yum, bum, the two notes that are short are too short. They're out of character because dee-da-da-da-da, ta-dum, ta-dum, etc., ta-da, yum, bum, ba. That's always the question, what does a dot mean? What does a staccato mean? Again, that's wonderfully ambiguous, or else everybody would sound exactly the same. So, you know, it's context. It's not, the dot means this. Well, it certainly means not long, not sustained. How short? I think that's too short. It's again the context. So, okay, you want to play a touch of the second movement, of the fourth movement? Sorry. It's a great fourth movement. I mean, every movement in this piece is, you know, just masterful. Probably we should just spend a little time on that. Okay. Again, it's the notation is beautiful and interesting, and so is the whole shape of that. So you start on a downbeat. Usually, the first downbeat is the beginning of a phrase in music, and the place where you give some emphasis. Not in this movement. It's yum, bum, ba, da, to the second measure. And there's later on wonderful kind of phrasing, ambiguous phrasing again. You have a dot, yet you have a slur and a rest. Like, I want it to be short, but I don't want it to be disconnected from the rest of the phrase. So bum, ba, da. I mean, again, it's for people to interpret. What does it mean? Why is there a slur? See, for a piano, slur means that that's not separated short. It means that there's some connection. So when you have a slur over a rest, it's very unusual. Although Chopin does that a lot too. But yum, so you don't want to do dum, bum, ba, da, yum, dum, da, da. So you want to end the note with a kind of taper. So sometimes I feel it's a little short, that it's not going toward the second measure, yum, dum, pa, da, da, dum, pa, da, da. So the phrase really begins 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. It's a different shape of the phrase. You know, again, beautifully not square. It's not dum, dum, pa, da, dum, bum, dum, pa, da. It's yum, dum, pa, da, da, dum. So it goes to 1 rather than coming from 1, to my ear. And so could you reflect that as much as possible? You start down bow? Yeah. I know nothing about things like that. I would start up bow, but you know, just because you don't want to do tum, yum. I mean, that's my image. But you know, good. So, I mean, throughout the piece, I mean, maybe one, as a listener, doesn't sort of know what's happening or what it means, but the fact that a lot of these first measures are upbeats, not downbeats, gives it a different feeling. It makes it less square, less direct, and more evocative in a certain way, I think. Can you play for me just some of your accompaniment? Mm-hmm. Let's say, how about from here? Good. Okay, good. So, I mean, beautifully balanced with the others. Can you have a little more of the harmonic content of it? So I'm not feeling what you're doing with the, you know. Not that it should be loud, but it's a little bit, it's just a little bit swimming. It's not, you're not helping, I don't think, as much as you can. That's it. Okay, great. Not to get too loud, but just to have maybe these hairpins are a little too much for the others. Okay, can you do, everybody, what's a good place to do it? 18. Okay, good. Yeah, very good. I don't know if that makes a difference to you, but I hear it differently. I think that's good. You could, if you like, do a little with the pedal, sort of hold, you know, the bass. You're doing it. And then it makes either you'll have to play loud, but if. So have some transparency, and yet you want a bass. You want that, you know. So yet you want it to be clean in some way. You know, some, again, not unpedaled, not fully pedaled. Okay, you seem a little uncomfortable, all of you in the retards. Are you? Yeah, okay. So play, what are you meaning to do? Do you want to release, or you want to just connect with the next?
I want to release. I personally prefer this is separated.
Okay, let's hear how you would do it then, just by yourself for a second. Go back. Okay, that's beautiful. It sounds different from what you said, because it wasn't a real break, it was just a setting of the next. But I think that's beautiful. You don't want a real big silence. So what you did was, as you came in with the new material, you stopped the previous material. And that's what I think you should do. It shouldn't be a big break, but it shouldn't be you shouldn't neglect, though, that change. And it's only a 2-measure writ. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's quite a natural thing. Again, this one, ta-dee, da-dee, ta-dee, da-da, dee-da-da-da-da-dee-da-da, just be better connected with your colleagues there. So, okay, we got to stop. Just do that again from same place, 18, then we'll have to stop. Okay, can that have more bow and more of a yum, a more ambiguous release, not so much dum, bum, ba, but dum, bum, ba. End it with a kind of consonant like M rather than da, 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 dim, dum. A space, but hardly. Good. Good. Okay, good. Okay, good. This one was particularly beautiful. I thought this one you made continuous. Da 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 dum. I think da 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 ta. It's new material, so don't sort of elide into it so much. And fiddle, I thought you could be a little more, if you like. Da da dee dee da da tee da da tee. The second time, da da dee dee da da dee dee da 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 tee da da dee da da. But you start the growth maybe with your second reiteration. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Bravo.